G'day everyone, Jason Nunn with this Friday's fishing report, proudly brought to you by Fisherman's Warehouse Marine at Sweet Street at Warners Bay. Of course, last night, some places 50 to 60 mil of rain. I reckon down at Swansea, maybe 30 or 40. It did come down at a great rate of night. So now behind me here, we've basically got Marmon Cove, but up to the left, Cockle Creek, and we just had a bit of a walk up there before, and a lot of fresh water coming out, and there's a lot of discolour up in Warners Bay. So that fresh last night really has spiced it up. Of course, this weekend, the shootout at Port Stephens, and of course $50,000 prize money for heaviest marlin. I think that will be heavily fished. We are indeed on our way up there probably in the next hour or two and get up there, hook up with a couple of good mates of ours and have some fishing for the next 2 days. But the conditions out to the east that you see behind me, it's exactly what we're going to get. We're going to get thunderstorms this afternoon and stormy sort of weather possibly over the next few days. First quarter tomorrow, so the first quarter of the moon. And the tides this week, a little bit like when the big fish tournament was on, guys. There's not a lot of change in the tide. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, low tide, and it's around about that 0.65, nearly 0.7 of a metre low to a really lazy high tide at around about 3:45 tomorrow afternoon, 1.2 metres. So not a lot of chidal exchange, and we did see that a few weeks ago at Big Fish, where it resulted in really lack of bites. Current out wide, 3.7 knots up off Port Stephens. It is absolutely pouring down the hill, 26.3 degrees. So it'll be a tough one. I don't think there's a lot of marlin on the inshore, and it's going to be hard out wide as well with that much current. So it's a really fickle event, but someone's going to take home $50,000. So hopefully it's us, but it's going to be a lot of, certainly a lot of competitors up there. So we'll just see how we go and we'll report on that next week. The FAD, there's been some good dolphin fish in and around there, but again, guys, you're just going to have to pick these conditions this weekend. Northeast, very light, 5 to 10 in the morning, around about 15 east northeast in the afternoon, and that is the same thing as Sunday. But I do reckon on Sunday, because we're getting a couple of days of 30 degrees, we'll probably see a little bit more, a bit fresher out of that east northeast, but very, very humid at the moment. I know I spoke to Alex and young Ben this morning. They got some really nice brim in the lake, and the shallower water seems to be the pick. And I don't know if it's a direct result of that rain overnight, but this time of year, it's been like mid-February now. We've talked about it before. There's a lot of mullet moving around in the system at the moment, but there's certainly a lot of brim, and I don't reckon we're too far away from the coastal brim, those travelling fish moving up and down the coast, coming in on our ocean beaches, but then moving into the estuary. I talked to the guys about what the brim were they a coastal fish, and they're probably more resident fish at the moment, but you will see this transition out probably over the next month. There's still some really nice whiting in the estuary as well, guys. Tube worms, of course, look, the only place in Newcastle is down at Swansea at New Age, so tube worms are available down there. But as we start to get into this, even though it's hot now, we're going to start to move into autumn very, very quickly. The oily base baits, your strip mullet, and obviously your pilchards, even prawns dipped in tuna oil, those oily based baits, your guts, mullet gut, chicken gut, will be the better of the baits. There's been a few tailor schools in the lake moving around. Some of those schools, there's some better fish, 45s to 50s, maybe a little bit better on a couple of them, but a lot of small fish. But this is typical at this time of year. February can be a real fickle month for fishing itself, because offshore the water is so warm, and then you get back on the beaches, the whiting are now starting to move away. You've still got dart and a few brim just turning up, but there has been the odd, and this is typical of February, starting to see that sprinkling of tailor, not only along the beaches, but on the rocks. And they're the guys that are starting to move in and out of the estuary. I had some reports late last week and into this week of a lot of tailor in and around the Blacksmith's Breakwater area. But I think guys have got to be really observant to it. It's a 10 fish bag limit, guys. I'm hearing reports of guys, putting 20 or better into their fish box or their keeper bag. So I know fisheries today, they were down at the ramp, and I heard some strange goings on at Coaltee Creek today, believe it or not. I've got a customer rang me through this morning, and Jason, can you get some contact with the DPI? A couple of guys had some net strung across Coaltee Creek, forcing fish into a net. Fisheries are on their way to investigate, but there are some bizarre things happening out there. So members of the public, you guys have got to be aware of what's going on, and if you see any of this illegal activity, please report it in. It's all about compliance. That's the best way to go. The lake, plenty of squid. Murrays, the drop over, yes, but you've got to get in that deeper water. This time of year, normally 5 to 6 metres. I reckon 7 to 9 metres at the moment, but a lot of squid, but there's been some really good kingfish action. And in fact, I've had reports this week of schools of kingfish, in particular, the southern end of the lake, Pulborough Island over towards Swansea, busting up, crunching through the surface, chasing bait, chasing garfish. So it's all coming together. So this lake kingfish fishery is really coming to life. There's a few fish at the bridge, and I've watched a few of those guys this week down rigging or floating live squid back at the bridge, but it will appear that the lake itself is fitting much, much better. It's a lot more fish in the lake than at basically the bridge. Some really nice mulloway around, and I did say a few weeks ago how tough it was. I got a report straight away. A lot of mulloway in the lake at present. I just think that is a direct result now of the build-up of squid, and of course first quarter of the moon. As we move back into next week, we start to get into the full moon, so a perfect time. Haven't heard much, like, you know, exotic species coming along coastally. I know there's been some cobia up at Port Stephens, but none down off our part of the woods, certainly Moon Island down towards Birdie or up towards Newcastle. A little bit quiet on cobia, but reports are up at Southwest Rocks, obviously spotties coming down, so anything's possible with 26.5 degrees out wide, and on the beaches at the present moment, 21.5, 22 in patches. Might have cooled off just a little bit overnight with that fresh water, but things are looking really, really good. Guys, I think you just got to get out of there. The water a little bit discoloured behind me as a direct result of this, but things are looking very, very good. We're on our way to Port Stephens. 50 grand looks pretty great to me. Speaking next Friday.